The curse in my Uber driver's eye. It was a typical evening in Lagos. The sun had just dipped behind the horizon, and the streets buzzed with the usual blend of honking horns, crowded sidewalks, and the anticipation of the nightlife. I opened my Uber app and requested a ride from the area I had been at, a lively neighborhood filled with bars, clubs, and street food vendors. It was 9:30 p.m. and I was ready to head home after a long day. The app showed Oluwaseun 5 minutes away. A few minutes later, the car pulled up. I got in without thinking much, but as I shut the door, a strange chill ran down my spine. The air inside the car was heavy, almost suffocating. I glanced up at the driver. Oluwaseun was an older man, maybe in his late 40s, his face etched with experience. But what caught my attention were his eyes. They were empty. It wasn't that they lacked emotion, but there was something otherworldly about them. They seemed distant, almost haunted. As I sat down, I tried to push the unease away and greeted him. Good evening, sir. Lagos traffic, eh? I said, trying to lighten the mood. He nodded but didn't respond, his focus unwavering on the road. I leaned back in my seat, trying to ignore the unsettling feeling crawling up my spine. But then I noticed something strange. The reflection in the rearview mirror showed me his eyes, wide open, but there was a flicker of something dark behind them, a flicker of pain, anger, and something much darker. Where are you headed? He finally asked, his voice low and steady. I told him my address and he nodded, taking a different route than I expected. The usual way was congested, but this was a shortcut through some back streets that I hadn't noticed before. I thought we would avoid traffic, he said in a cryptic tone. We drove deep into unfamiliar parts of Lagos. The streets seemed deserted, the usual noise of the city fading into an eerie silence. I glanced around, my anxiety rising. Is this a safe area? I asked, feeling a twinge of fear. He didn't respond. Instead, he turned down a narrow alley, and that's when I saw it. A small shrine hidden from view, unless you knew exactly where to look. It was tucked in between two decrepit buildings, its altar covered in offerings. What is that? I asked, my curiosity getting the best of me. Oluwaseun's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His knuckles went white and his eyes flickered again. Darker this time, like something inside him had snapped. Nothing, he muttered, but the tone of his voice sent a shiver through me. There was no denying it now, he was hiding something. I wanted to ask more, but just then the car came to a stop in front of a ramshackle building. I looked at the surroundings, the air thick with tension. This didn't look like the way to my house. I think you took a wrong turn, sir, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. His face was expressionless, but then he spoke again, the words slow and deliberate. I haven't taken you where you need to go. Not yet. Suddenly, a memory I had buried deep surfaced. My mind raced. A woman I once knew had spoken of a curse that haunted the streets of Lagos. A curse that plagued those who came in contact with it. It was said to be passed down from one generation to the next. A darkness that fed on guilt, regret, and the souls of those it consumed. But that was just a story, wasn't it? Before I could voice my thoughts, the car door swung open. I didn't know how it happened, but I was being pulled out of the car by an invisible force. I stumbled onto the ground, my heart pounding in my chest. My breath caught in my throat as I looked up. There, standing in front of me, was Oluwaseun. Only he was different. His eyes were no longer those lifeless voids. They were glowing now, a bright red that seemed to pierce through the darkness. He was no longer the man who had picked me up in the Uber. I'm sorry, he whispered, but this voice didn't sound like his own. It was cold, foreign, like something else was speaking through him. Suddenly, everything clicked. The shrine, the eyes, the curse. Oluwaseun wasn't just a man, he was a vessel, and I had become part of something much larger than myself. You were supposed to never learn the truth, he said, his voice breaking as if he were fighting to keep control. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, her face hidden behind a veil. She stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. Her touch was icy. You don't understand, do you? She asked, her voice soft but filled with power. This curse is eternal. It's already too late. The world spun around me as I struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation. There was no escape, no way out. Like and subscribe for part 2.